Labdien, labdien, labdien! Šodien mēs esam atkal dzīvajā, vai angliski saka live. Mans vārds ir Anastasija Foks, es esmu šī portāla dibinātāja, un šodien mums būs nedaudz nopietnāka saruna šajā gadījumā ar bijušo policisti, kura tagad strādā tieši policijas ofisos un tieši izmeklē saucamās lietas, kas ir saistībā ar vardarbību ģimenē. Bet saruna būs angļu valodā, un šajā gadījumā es tagad pāriešu uz angļu valodu, lai uzrunātu mūsu jauko viesi. Hello, Janet! What I was just explained that who I am, that I'm on this lovely portal, and that it's my initiative to support Latvian community. So, and I explain as well, today will be quite interesting conversation about domestic violence, as you as former police officer, and now you are something even bigger, if I can say that. And I love to give you now the word and explain who you are and how long time you are in the forces and why you are here today. Jenny, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anastasia, for inviting me to speak to your community. It's really, really important that we reach all communities in the UK. So for those of you that I've never yet had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Jenny Harris and I am a former police officer. I was a police officer in the West Midlands Police for 26 years and 4 months, to be precise. I retired from policing. I left policing in 2014 and I was a sergeant when I left. I worked in lots of different investigative roles and supervisory roles in my years in policing. And domestic violence has always been very, very dear to my heart because my background and going back to my childhood, my mother herself was a domestic violence survivor. So it's very important to me that our communities feel enabled so that they feel that they can come to the police and report what's happening, usually behind closed doors. So nobody else witnesses it. It's something that happens when nobody's watching. And it actually can ruin your confidence. So you then think that, how have I allowed this to happen to me? And you start blaming yourself, and it really isn't you. It's not your fault. So that's a little bit about me. I'm married. I have two, I call them my boys, but they're actually 22 and 20 years old. So they're not tiny boys anymore, but they'll always be my boys. And I'm also married to a police officer. So I now, Anastasia said, I now do something different. Yes, I run my own business, but I do that part-time because now full-time, this 6 months ago, I went back into policing and I work as an investigator. So that is currently where I am in a real nutshell, whistle-stop tour of my life.
So that means you're still in the policing. It's
Yes.
Still the most important job in my perspective, because the people like you, or like your family, because you mentioned your husband as well is police officer and working in a police, maybe he's not officer, sorry, I don't know. I don't want to be so precise as you in a month.
He's a sergeant
but
as well.
This is job what you guys do to protect us. And that it's one of the reasons when I arrive in this country, after growing up in a Soviet Union time and post-Soviet Union time, where we quite scared about any authorities, because majority authorities turn anyway against anyone which turn up to. You are guilty or not, you always get some kind of punishment that you disturb our time. That when I came in the United Kingdom, that was first time I understand actually police should be your best friend here, because what else happened, you always gave the guidelines, you always support and put you in a place where you feel safe. even the systems which is in the streets, the cameras, CCTV cameras, etc., etc. I know there are people which do not like that, but I'm always said, if someone don't like something which is good, that means they do something what is not good to do. So it's my opinion. So nevertheless, there are in our community some kind of quite downside of understanding of what is police job, what they do, and particular never ever report something which happen indoors. And indoors, I mean, if they're in a house, in a your household, in a, even it's not families, maybe now it's in United Kingdom, so many people living in a sharing house. They are ashamed, they scared, they do not actually use police as a best friend where to turn up, even for advice. So I give you one snap in my life in London, where I was thinking my car is stolen because all the streets it's so similar, and I'm called police, and then actually the car it's in another street, and they even offer me get in a car looking for the car. And I was thinking, if that will be back in a Latvia or Russia, that's never will happen. That's never will happen. And I barely speak English language. And they say, don't worry, that's happened at least 10 times in a day. Normal. All right. So, Jenny, I want to start with quite simple question, which I believe from my point of view that not many Latvian community, because this portal is more likely a Latvian community viewers, they do not understand what is domestic violence.
Okay, so again, it's really important that you do understand what it is, because it's something that could be happening to you. And that's a great question. What is it? It could be happening. And I've actually written down the definition. There's there's the definition from the College of Policing, which I'm going to read to you now. And that is, domestic abuse is defined as any incident or pattern of incidents of controlling, and I will explain some of these words as well, controlling, coercive, threatening behaviour, violence or abuse between age 16 or over, who are or have been intimate partners or family members, regardless of gender, sex or sexuality. And the abuse can be psychological, physical, sexual, financial, or emotional. Now,
Wow. That is
you can,
great, because that is, sorry I interrupt you, because this is really good, because we think domestic violence can be just physical, but
no,
actually now you mentioned there it's many layers which
yes,
lead to actually physical.
yeah. So, and it's not always physical. So it can be psychological. It can be where your partner or family member won't give you any money, or they threaten you. So they ask you to do things that you wouldn't ordinarily do, and the only reason you're doing them is because you are afraid. So it's really important that you understand what domestic violence is, because, like I say, it could be something that's happening to you or someone you know in your community right now. And it's really important that in order to enable it to stop, that you feel confident that you can go to the police and report it. So, if you and I say, obviously, if you wanted to stop, not everybody wants police involvement in their lives. However, if you go to the police and report this, then you will be taken seriously. So
Okay.
when I talk about coercive, I just want to go on to coercive and controlling behavior. It's really important that, if someone asks you, in a domestic situation, and I'll give you a really quick analogy of what that, or an example of what that can be, and just think about, we'll take it back to the school playground. You've got the school playground bully that says to a child, give me your dinner money, your lunch money, or I'll beat you up. That child would never hand over their dinner money, and the only reason they're doing it is because they're afraid of being beaten up. They've been threatened with violence. So coercive control in the home can be anything where you are now doing something that you don't really want to do, but the only reason you're doing it is that you've been threatened. And it could be somebody threatening to send you back to Latvia. It could be somebody threatening to go to the police and saying that you shouldn't be here. So they've got you to do things with the threat that they'll report you to the Home Office, or to whatever. So you're now doing things that you don't really want to do, but you're doing it because you're afraid.
Right. I think this is amazing advice, but actually you have a question from Aelita. Where do you find the power of and energy to work such a emotional heavy job?
Oh, okay. So it's not about me. It's never the job. Being a police officer is not a job that you do because you want to get rich. That's the bottom line. You do it because you want to help people, and being part of people's lives and listening to their issues or their challenges. You're probably the only person that they've ever had the opportunity to talk to about it. So how do I deal with that? It's just part of the job. It's just it's what I've been trained to do. So do I get emotionally involved? Very rarely. You kind of learn that this is what you're dealing with. It's not about me. It's about how I can help them.
Wow, Jenny, I know you have this amazing smile, and behind this smile, I never can imagine that it's so strong lady which can be so direct and say, listen, this is only my job.
It's not that I don't care. Do you know what I mean? Don't misunderstand that by
Yeah.
that I don't care. I really, really care, and that's why I do it. Because you can't do a job as being a police officer if you don't care about people and care about outcomes and care about the right and wrong. There are people out there that are doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and somebody has to be that person that says, no, you can't do that. That is against the law. You can't treat people that way. You can't treat property that way. You cannot behave that way. And because you behave that way, then we're going to do something about it.
Yeah, you see, I always said, in this country, I think the best friend, I don't have them, but I have the best organization as my best friend. This is police. And at the same time, it's funny you said that what you need to do, you need to be some kind of passion about to help someone,
Yeah.
not to stop do something, but actually to help someone which can say no, because there is many people which cannot say no. And now we come back to our conversation about domestic violence, and you explained some kind of categories. I'm not surprised because I do know rules and our rights in this country, but I came from country actually there is no this kind of explanation or understanding, and even police jobs do not contain support in this kind of situations. There, my personal life experience was when I was 5 years old, no, 6 years old child, when my mother passed me knife because she was attacked by my stepdad. And I ran with this knife in a police office, which was those days called DND, as a volunteer a police officer, something similar to understand. And I handled this bloody knife, and they say, thank you, you bring beautiful knife. This will serve Soviet Union. And if the stepdad done this for you, mom, that she deserved it.
Wow.
So now I give you something insights from how we are grown up. in a society where actually domestic violence was quite acceptable, the same time really shameful. Because our background as well, it's quite deep, saying always everything what happened indoors never come outdoors. But this is the advantage for the abusers, because they know if this happen indoors, they are protected, because if they will do something similar in outdoors between the men, they're even do not be in situation maybe so powerful when they are in a house, and particular with the close ones. So saying that, you gave us now this definition of what is the domestic violence, that it's controlling, that it's mental control, mental abuse, threats, and some kind of feeling you are scared from the person. So the same time, I have now first question, how you can report, but at the same time, when you report, you need to have some kind of proof. How you can some kind of collect evidence to later on give the police officer and say that's happened and that's the way I scared. What need to be represented actually to police to give this report of the domestic violence? Doesn't matter which kind of level this happened.
Okay, that's a great question. And my answer to that would be, but let me just touch on a couple of things that you've spoken about. So we understand that in some cultures, domestic abuse, and like you say, things that happen behind closed doors stay behind closed doors, and it's nobody else's business. That was very similar in the UK, not that long ago. When my mom was experiencing domestic abuse, the police did come and the police did nothing. So, and that was, 40 years ago, however long that was. But, so domestic abuse in the UK has come a long way. And it's learned a lot of lessons. And one of the lessons that the UK police has learned is that 1 in 4 of our murders in the UK happen as a result of a domestic. So it's part of either ex-partner or current partners, and somebody has died. So 1 in 4 of our homicides are as a result of a domestic. So that in itself is a number that nobody wants to hear, because that means that person that was murdered knew who their murderer was, and that in itself, is an issue. So that's the first thing. Secondly, touching on cultural differences. The thing is, you're here in the UK, so you have just as much right to be protected from domestic abuse as anybody else, and you should not feel any shame in reporting that matter. Now, don't get me wrong, not everybody wants to report it to the police, so I will give you a telephone number for a domestic abuse support hotline that can help you, because not everybody wants to go down the road of prosecution and that route. So there are other options. But your safety is paramount, and that is what we should focus on. So when we talk about evidence, and what do we need to go to the police, so physical abuse is very easy. People can see injuries. People can see a black eye, fat lip, bruises on the body. So we can, that can be seen, and that is evidence that an assault or beating has taken place. However, when we talk about things like psychological abuse and financial abuse, and coercive and controlling behaviour, it would be really useful. So if you're watching this today and you realise that this might be happening to you, start to keep a diary, even if it's just on your phone. Start to make a note of the dates and times and what's happened to you or what is happening. So say for an example of that would be, You know, you've come home, you know, your partner, husband, whoever it is, has been out. They've come home from work and you haven't cooked any dinner, or you've cooked a dinner and they don't like it, and they smash up the plates, throw them on the floor, and call you names because you haven't done what they wanted you to do. That is abuse. That is an incident that is taking place. So either make a note of it in your phone with the date and the time that it's happened, and then or write it down. I would suggest it's probably easier if you've got a phone to put it in your phone rather than write it down in case they find the book or the piece of paper you've written it on. And that will help to give, A, it will help you when you come to the police because you've got dates and times, and B, it helps the police putting a case together. So at the end of the day, what you need to understand is the police don't make the decisions as to what happens with a case. And it's really important that I make that distinction. What the police do, we are what we call evidence gatherers. So when it comes to the investigation, we are the people that are going to get all the evidence, all the available evidence together to build a case. What then happens is the police will put all that evidence together in a file, and it will go across or be sent across to our Crown Prosecution Service, and they will make a decision as to what the next course of action will be if it's a serious case. So there are some cases that we can make a decision on, but they still have to go to the prosecutors, and they will still make a decision based on what outcome is going to take place. So it's really important that we have as much evidence. And if you start documenting it, as in writing it down or putting it into your phone, or taking pictures of your injuries, all of those things will help when it comes to us putting a case together to support you. I kind of hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes big sense because I think there it is well another issue that people have a perspective that police it's that organization which makes straight away decisions and then took the one side or another side. I think this is exactly. I know what you're talking about, but again, there is the misunderstanding of the role of the police in this whole system where actually police is that person which collect the evidences, help you, give you guidelines how to collect these evidences, give you guidelines where you need to go for organizations for support. You are not the organization which take the side one way or another if this not always crime in front of your eyes where you know that it's breaking the law. For example, if there is physical violence where you arrive because neighbors report you and you actually as a police officer see there it's taking place physical abuse with a knife or with a what else, then you make straight away decision to remove the person from the premises, to stop that and to collect the evidences. But you are, in some sense, you act straight away, you understand, you recognize who is what and why this happened. You cannot at the same time give the judgment because you don't know where the start was, because majority people will judge now police jobs snapping the pictures on the streets, but they do not have no idea that actually behind that what they see there it's huge another side what they do not know. And when they put some kind of this kind of comments in a social media, I'm always get really angry because I think in the United Kingdom, no police will act violently on a street if there are not really threats on a public and there are not enough evidence why the person have to be stopped in a violent way. Are that it's right or just me?
You know, the role of the police officer is a very difficult one, and you have to make decisions in real time and quickly. So and they're human beings, and sometimes people will make a wrong decision. But they're human beings. And, it's all well and good when people have been able to watch a video or listen to the news. And I call them the shoulda, coulda, woulda squad. It's all well and good knowing what you should have done, when you should have done it, when you're sitting in the comfort of your own home or the comfort of your office when the incident has already taken place. Police officers everybody seems to think, and they are the first line of defence for everything. So no matter what it is that people are going through, they always call the police first. So police officers show up, they have to quickly, and I mean quickly, to quickly assess the situation, assess what they are faced with, and then make a decision based on what they have in front of them. Now, if there's something comes along later, then you might make a different decision. But at the time, with what you have in front of you or what you are being told, that's what you have to use to make that decision at that time. So a week later, a month later, something new might come to your attention, and you can make a different decision based on that new information. But at that time, in that moment, police officers have to make, and they get paid to make those decisions. But it's sometimes they make the wrong one. A lot of the time they make the right one, but sometimes they might make the wrong one. And they don't do it on purpose. It's not an intentional thing. It's just they're human and they make a decision based on what they have at that time. So, to judge people for making a bad decision, I don't believe ever that a police officer wakes up in the morning, puts their uniform on, drives to work, gets all their kit on, and then says, today I'm going to make a really crap decision. Nobody does that. They go to work every day with the intention.
I like how you say crap decision. I love that you.
Nobody does
exactly.
that. Nobody does that. It's ridiculous to think it. Don't get me wrong, like all aspects and all parts of society, you are going to have some people that consistently make poor decisions based on their programming, based on their bias and their prejudices. And those people should not be representing the public. End of. And there is no place in policing or any kind of public service for people who behave that way. However, those genuine officers on a daily basis who go out there, and sometimes not knowing if they're going to come home to their family at the end of their shift, because you never know. No 2 days are the same. You don't know what you're going to show up at. You don't know if you're going to be ambushed and somebody's made a call to say that one thing is this, but it's actually another. It's a very real concern for police officers every single day, yet they still go to work. I was getting very passionate about this when with the whole COVID-19 and doctors and nurses getting loads and loads of praise about going to work and going into COVID wards. Police officers go into war every single day of their lives. They are moving targets, and every single day they do it with nobody clapping their hands and praising them. It's just expected that they're going to perform that role, and rightly so. That's what they go to work for. But don't misunderstand it. When people make a poor decision, it's not because they're doing it for notoriety. They're doing it because they've made a poor decision. And trust me, they will, and it's a learning. They probably will never do it again. The right people.
Okay. We now go back to domestic violence. And you as a police officer, did you have some kind of inner you memories, cases with domestic violence where you arrive and you are in a shock? Can you give maybe most experience which you remember, which touch you more, which you cannot forget, which is around domestic violence when you was police officer?
There's loads of stories that I could share that involve domestic violence. But usually they're the ones, to me, the ones that are the most memorable, the ones that have the most impact on you are the ones where there's been physical abuse. I'm not saying that any other abuse is not important, but the ones that leave the most impact on you is the ones that you can see. You can see the damage that has been done. I've shown up at scenes where somebody's been murdered. That leaves an impact on you. You know, that is, you know, you can't. I can't believe that people that were in a relationship together have got to the point where one of them has actually killed the other one. So yeah, you know, those physical, violent jobs are the ones that leave the most impact, because
Okay.
like I said, you can't believe it.
Yeah. Did you have some kind of maybe statistics which show how many Eastern Europeans actually it's involved in a domestic violence and how this is resolving, or there is no some kind of statistics available?
I'm not aware of any statistics that breaks it down into different demographics of people. I don't have those numbers, and I don't know if there are statistics that say that any particular cultural group are more that experience domestic violence more than anybody else. I don't have those numbers. I do know though that most victims of domestic violence are women, and I do know that during this pandemic and during lockdown, the numbers have gone up by some 50%, because women are at home or have been at home with their offenders. So it's, I'd like to say, I don't know. And, you know, you touched on the subject right at the very beginning, that the Latvian community probably are underreporting. They're probably not telling the police about incidents because of that fear, that fear that they won't be believed, that lack of trust with policing. And that's why one of the reasons why I agreed to do this is that you should never be afraid. The police are here to help you, and you know, you should not be scared to go to the police and report that you're being abused in your own home.
Yeah, but at the same time, I came as well from domestic violence family and really severe ones. And I have many experience that feels like, and what is the strangest things when you go to and reporting, you scared you come back and that person come back to you and will become more violent. So what you as an organization, what you can put some kind of in place to courage come to police and report this situation, and what you can say which gave you security when you come back, that person do not come back and harm you even more?
Okay, that's a great question, and thank you for that. One of the things that we do know, and I forget the exact number, but it did shock me when I first heard it. It was something like most victims, when they turn up at the police station or they phone the police, there has usually been something like 30, I might be wrong on these numbers, but it usually had been about 30 different incidents had occurred before they finally decided enough was enough. So there's usually been a long number of incidents before they finally call the police. That's when they come to police. I'm not counting when the police are called from a third party, because normally when they're called from a third party and the woman hasn't called herself, my experience, and I haven't got any numbers to support this, but my experience has been they're not ready. So if somebody calls on their behalf, they're either not, then they haven't got to that point. So what we find is that they will either say that they're okay, they won't go through with a report, and they'll stay with the offender. However, when the women do finally have the courage and do decide that enough is enough, there are a number of things that can be put in place to support them once, so that they don't have to go back, or we can remove the perpetrator. But everything's dealt with on a case-by-case basis. I can't just say that there's a one size that fits all, because that would be unfair, because I can't say that if this happens, then these things will take place. I can't say that, because everybody's case is different. What I can say is that there are a number of what we call wraparound organisations that can support victims depending on what they want as an outcome. So if an offender is arrested, say, for argument's sake, and the victim has decided that they want a prosecution, or they've got injuries and support prosecution, and our Crown Prosecution Service go ahead with the prosecution, there are a number of things that have been put in place to keep the offender away from the victim. So there could be things like, whilst the case is being prepared to go to court, there can be bail conditions that are put in place to keep away, not contact, not have any family members contact them, because sometimes they will try and contact the victim through using a third party, so another relative, say. So we can put all those conditions can be put in place. The woman can, if she decides she doesn't want to stay in that, and it's too dangerous for her to remain at that location, then she can be put into a hostel. There's lots, and moved, out of that home. Or if that home's not her home, yet if she left that home, it would leave her vulnerable. Then there's lots of other things that can be put in place. So there are lots of what we call wraparound services that will be there to support a victim.
At the same time, I know many stories, particularly in a Latvian community. Okay, the woman or man get the courage, come in a police station, put the report, and then come back at home, and later on they take this report away. So to do not put further. What is your opinion about that? And as a human, not as a police officer, but now what is you? I think because you put a lot as police, lot job there in already, and then someone come and take out this report, and that means they give allowance again be abused. This is my how you comment.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is the reality. People, tend to, especially if they've been in that relationship for a while, they love their partners. The women tend to love their partners, and they don't want to see anything happen to them. And plus, there's a coercion behind it. If you go through with this, then my life is going to be end, or I'm going to, some men will threaten to kill themselves. So there's a lot of guilt wrapped up in it. So, it's not my job to judge. I just cross my fingers and hope that at some point she will make the right decision for her, because the ultimate sacrifice she can make is her life. So it's really important that they understand the risks that they're taking, and also to at least try and stay in touch with some of the organisations that can help them until they're ready to make that decision, because it's a difficult road to travel, and fear will keep people in poor relationships because they don't know what to do, and they're too scared to think in the future without this person, this abuser. So what all we can do is just try and support them. Do I agree with it? It's not my job to agree or disagree. Is it frustrating? Yeah, it is at times. Of course it is. You put that work in, you want to support them, and then they retract their original retract. They don't want to take support prosecution. But at the end of the day, they're adults and it's their life. And as police, like I say, we don't judge. When they call again, we will go back and we'll go through the same thing, and we'll try and support them on that occasion. And then they might retract again, and then you just have to wait and they call again and you go back. So they don't get any less service. There's no marker put on the address to say don't go there. That person's retracted 5 times. It doesn't work like that. Every instance is dealt with on its merits.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I want to ask you, because there are situations where families have a regular abuse inside, and they regular call police, and they regular take out the complaints, do not get in a head because they are actually scared. And I believe that it's more like, and that it's my personal opinion. I do not want to say I know that it's for sure. My personal opinion, and I see how it's happened in my personal life story, where the woman always stands, oh, his will change, his will change, his will change, until she nearly lose the lives, and then it's nearly too late. Nevertheless, you as well straight away answer the question which I want to ask you about: how you looking, if you see this pattern in a one address, and this always you go there and always it's the same issue, and always they put report and they withdraw, that means they use your time. But actually you're completely right, there will be one day which that's can you turn up and there it's that body either. So that every situation, each time you call, you treat that as the same as the first one.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't go there with and it would be wrong, because that they're asking. And the thing is, each time they might just be getting a little bit stronger. Each time they might just be getting a little bit more confident. Each time, and even if they withdraw that complaint, at least they know that something can happen. So when they're ready, and nothing will happen until they're ready. And sometimes they're never ready, and they might lose their lives. But you know, the majority of the time, you know, I like to hope that, you know, somebody will a woman will or a man will recognize that this is not the way I want to be treated, and I want it to change.
But at the same time, I
And
have
know,
a question.
but know that the police will be there to support them.
I want a questioning then. If there is several this kind of reports which is drawing in and then withdrawn, drawing in and then withdraw, are these reports still stay in the records in a police in a case later on do need to be used if the person finally get power enough and put this in a court? Are
Yeah.
these records be
So what can, because sometimes, and I will mention this. Sometimes, depending on, it's usually around, my experience is around physical abuse. Sometimes a woman will withdraw her complaint, so she'll make a complaint, or a man make a complaint, and then they'll withdraw their support for prosecution. We as the police sometimes will still go ahead with a prosecution, and what we call a victimless prosecution, because we have enough evidence to support that actually happened. So that abuse, that physical violence actually took place, and we'll go ahead and prosecute that person without that witness. So a police officer can be a witness to what they saw. So for, you know, somebody rings the police. We've been there a few times. You get there, she goes to hospital. You visit her. She doesn't want to make a complaint. But when the police officers arrived at the house, they've seen all the furniture is disturbed. They've seen blood. They've seen the injuries. They've seen the distress the woman's been in. They record all of that as their evidence of when they've shown up, and we can still go ahead. So, you know, and prosecute that individual.
okay? That is even great, because this is exactly what actually sometimes people think that if you withdraw the complaints, then everything can be closed down. But actually, there you have. This is great, because this gave the security that doesn't matter if there are witnesses as a police. That means you can put further for the person, because sometimes I think perpetrators, you understand what I'm saying, you know, my tongue in the English language not work always. Perpetrators, they think, okay, if the complaints is withdrawn, they will get away again. And I think
also some of the victims are really pleased that we do victimless prosecutions, because they can go, but I never did anything. It wasn't me. So they can almost absolve themselves of any blame to the offender and say, I didn't do this. The police did it. So it kind of makes them feel that yes, they want that help, but they didn't have to ask for it. So sometimes it's a really good tool, but again, it's based on it's evidence based.
Okay, we're already nearly 45 minutes talk about, and we just touched the surfaces, all the questions which I want to ask you. My God, definitely, Jenny, definitely we need to do more this kind of conversations, and I will be really pleased if we can do. But I have one more question which I really want to ask, because there are many times you hear something happening next doors and you think, oh, it's not my business. It's not my business. So what you will give us as a tips, as a good citizens, yeah, to become, it's, what is good, what is bad, again, it's questionable, but what you will advise where actually will be absolutely necessarily or helpful if you, as a good citizen or as a good neighborhood or what else you call it, and you hear regularly in a addresses that it's something happened, what you will advise to do and how you will advise to do, and what is that what will be need to report anytime.
Wow, that is a huge question. It's a huge question.
Welcome to Anastasia's folks craziness.
Yeah, no, it's a huge question because some people, you know, some people have what I call lively relationships. So they will have quite heated discussions in their homes about, I don't know, it could be about politics, it could be about anything. Okay. So for people to be like reporting that to the police would not be right. However, when you hear, so heated arguments, again, it depends on what the context is and what you can hear. But if you could hear violence, so somebody is being assaulted, somebody's shouting, don't hit me, somebody's shouting, leave me alone, you can hear furniture being disturbed, you can hear children screaming, particularly if there's children in the house. Those things, absolutely report them to the police. Absolutely. Because there'll be that time where you'll hear that furniture moving, furniture being disturbed. And we all know what that uncomfortable feeling sounds like. So it's different to somebody having an argument and then the argument stops, to furniture being thrown around, somebody's like, you can hear someone like falling over, children screaming, and then it's stopping. That day when that just stops could be the day that someone's just been murdered. So where you hear, and your gut feeling will tell you, as a human being, you will know when something doesn't sound right. And if it doesn't sound right to you, then call 999. You could be saving somebody's life. But I don't mean being that neighbor that's hears somebody just like falling out and interfering. That's different to somebody being, there's a pattern of domestic abuse happening. Then absolutely you should report that.
Okay, I think we need to leave another questions because actually I have so many. I can't give you lists. But what I can ask you, because look at that, it's nearly hour, and I just thinking we need to wrap up this conversation today. So where we discussed about the domestic violence, what is domestic violence, and basic needs, what you need to do, and how police see that. So nevertheless, Jenny, you have mentioned there are some kind of phone lines where you phone numbers and phone lines where you can call if you have a suspicious of something or you don't want to go in a police. Can I ask you a big favor later on when we finish this our live, put in a comments these phone numbers and maybe the links where people can straight away. There is Crime Watchers, I think, as well. It's one of the websites where you can report even confidentially, where you don't need to give the name. So maybe there is some kind of links which you can put under this live. And then as well, we will collect some kind of questions, which was maybe later on come up when the people see later on this particular live. So that will be really helpful, particular where if there are some kind of phone numbers where people can call, that will be great. So and I cannot believe it's nearly hour around. It's just amazing, and it's so interesting conversation. We have several comments, and because we have so fluent conversation, I didn't want to interrupt, but I put on the screen. So but Aili to say thank you for the call. We should have talks about this subject. So that means Jenny, you will be some kind of regular guest. I think once in a month or once in a 2 months. I think that will be as well more or less. We can give the more sense of it, and I will collect more maybe questions which came to me, because sometimes people as well do not put in a live and they later on come personal to me and personal messages, and then I can anonymously give some kind of questions. Are you will be okay with that, darling?
Perfect. Absolutely not a problem.
Great. So, and yes, for today, I think we touched the most important things, that what is domestic violence, and what to do, and what police job it's to collect the evidence. You are not the judges, and there are systems placed. So we was as well a little bit talk about your personal experiences, and actually I can talk to you hours and hours about that, because I think this is so important conversations, to particular in a Latvian community, because our mindset about police and police job and policing is completely different, but based on evidence is what happened in Latvia and how their police acting, and will be great if we can start build in a community which live here in United Kingdom, in Latvian, Lithuanian, post-Soviet bloc, the confidence and understanding of police job in United Kingdom, because we living here, that we have, as you mentioned, and I loved your synthesis, you said, where we come from, actually we have exactly the same rights to stand up about our human rights to live in this country. So that was amazing what you said, that actually it's no difference we are foreigners, or we do not speak English language properly, that we have.
Can I just interrupt on that point? Yeah. Just as another thing, just so that you have more confidence, if you don't speak English very well, don't worry. We have interpreters that will help and support you with the investigation. So when it comes to taking a statement from you, but that's when we're talking about getting your side of the story, getting the evidence from you, we will do that with an interpreter. So whatever language you speak, it doesn't matter. We will find trained interpreters that will help us to help you.
At the same time, there is big issue now. We start talk about, and I want to touch this surface now. There is people which do not call police because they do not have English language. Yes. So if they call 999 and they don't speak English, are there is some kind of text message or something where they can, maybe there is a situation you cannot call, you can't some kind of make the text message alert or something. Maybe there is as well some kind of this kind of services in policing.
Oh, wow. Gosh, that's a good question. And I don't know the answer to that. I don't think there is.
I know, actually there are, but I need to now research, and I want to take someone from police forces to give the right, who's working particularly in this area. So I don't want to now make the claims. Maybe it's a little bit now different numbers. Over the COVID, I know that it's particular new project where you can send a text message or voice call, which is you don't need to wait until someone pick up the call, but that's it straight away as an alert. But we will talk about, we will make this. We have good job now, do the research behind the screen about that, and come back to this topic then in next time. But yes, there are things where many people in Latvian community do not call or connect authorities because they think they do not speak English, they cannot understand. So I think that is, well, we maybe need to start thinking how we can help each other.
Can I ask a question? Why don't they learn to speak English? That's I'm just curious.
Okay, and I give you straight away question answer. I try to be quite short. In a 10-15 years ago, when opened the borders and we came here for work, majority this was agencies where we provide the jobs in United Kingdom here in some kind of factories. Again, there is a little bit cultural things where people in a Soviet post-Soviet time, it's better, you work in a one place, you are secure, that's exactly, etc., etc. Majority those places work exactly the same people from similar cultures where they do not need to speak English. And the same time, employees keep really happy that they do not integrate because they can took advantage. And it's another huge topic where actually quite recently it's statistics that one of the biggest modern slaveries come from Eastern Europe, and they are still there. And this is the way why people think, I don't need to learn because at work I speak in my own language or Russian language or language I understand. They do not have no understanding of their rights of this country because they do not have no connections outside with a different kind of communities. And this became that issue which really stand up now, particularly now in a COVID time, where people lose the jobs and they lose their houses and they lose the security and they don't know even no rights in this country. So, and that's was one of the reasons why I opened this portal and why I start invite people like you and another to explain. It's not my just thought. There is actually people which working in authorities, in policing, and can give exactly the same information which I know. But if I will say, they will think, oh, Anastasia, where you come from? This is just your ideas. This is why I do what I do. So, but I hopefully I answer you the question on that why people do not learn, not because they don't want, but they do not have actually really reasons. And there is always one in a family or one in a community who speak English. They do by them, they do the old application forms or what else, and they became so lazy that why I need to learn because I have someone which do for me.
Well, if COVID-19's taught them nothing else, then they should learn to speak English.
Exactly. And I love this last touch because this is the reason why as well this particular conversation it's in the English language, because the people need to start understand, to learn things, to integrate, to understand. That is the way. Only when you have English language. I did my most biggest mistakes living here when I arrived, when I couldn't speak English single word I couldn't speak English 15 years ago when I arrived in United Kingdom. But I understood that if I want to live here, there are needs to integrate, to understand.
Communication is key.
Yeah. So
communication is key, and education is key. And I wouldn't go and live somewhere and not be able to speak the language because I wouldn't know. I'd want to know what was happening around me. So,
but the funniest things about Latvians, when we take independence country again, and we was first Latvians, which was say, oh, there is so many Russian speaking community in Latvia who do not learn for 20 years speak Latvian language and they do not have now rights. Welcome to United Kingdom. They do exactly the same by themselves.
Oh, the irony.
Yeah, but that's, sometimes you really don't like something who's do something exactly what you don't do. And that's the way you are annoyed about that. So that's the mirror effect. So nevertheless, thank you so much.
You're
for
very welcome. Thank you for having me.
And it was really great and really interesting conversation. Definitely we will do again. And I will collect the questions and
if anyone's got any questions at all, doesn't matter what it is, send it to Anastasia and we can do this. Can be a regular thing, and it doesn't have to be just domestic violence. It can be anything that you want to talk about. we can have those conversations, because that's
Right.
how we learn. And just touching on, I'm not going to leave without saying it, but tackling racism in this country, it involves everybody. Everybody has to be involved. Everybody has to play a part. And for me, we are one race. We are the human race. That's it. There's no black, white, different. There's nothing. We are all people, and we all, we should be able to live together, support each other, help each other where we can. And if we can't help, we find we all signpost them to somebody who can help. That is the way we're going to build. United Kingdom is a great country. It has and can be, a really rich country full of lots of people. We can all add to that, to the United Kingdom. So let's all play our part.
Yeah, and I tell you honest, the you smile make my day. Always look at that. Yes, and you make my day, because actually, you're completely right. Doesn't matter where we come from. Doesn't matter which kind of skin color we have. Doesn't matter of everything. We are human beings. We have exactly the same rules to play with, to living in this country, and we have the same human rights. Anyone which living in this country, it doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter which language you speak with, but we need to follow the rules to we will be helped as well, because you cannot block the rules and then expect you will be helped.
You have to integrate. At the end of the day, you have to. If you want to be part of the whole system, you have to be part of the system and
exactly.
speak the language.
All right.
So you can communicate. Anyway, I'll let you go. Thank you for having me.
Can you stay behind the screen, because we quick have a little bit chat, but for all our listeners and viewers, I want to say have a nice day. It's a little bit sun, it's a little bit rain, but that's the life, and we do not need to complain about that. Bye.